this weekend actually might be kind of straightforward. So, yeah, myself, Owen, and Tommy, who I think has joined us on the line, and Will O'Callaghan as well, who sent through his predictions, are going to put a neck on the block. And get
morning, lads.
Come on, weekends. Tommy, how are you getting on?
Good. Fair play this morning. Good show.
Oh, yeah. We're not ready for our post-production meeting just yet, Tommy. And we're also not ready for another one of your sort of Nations League style.
Let's not talk about last week.
Yeah. We've got a bit of an order here. So there's not a lot of debate about a lot of these games. And we begin with the football. I think we can take a look at some of these on screen. Leitrim Mayo, unanimous. Louth London, unanimous. As in, if it needs saying, Mayo and Louth... Longford, sorry. Mayo, Louth, Longford, and it's Longford, obviously, everybody's going for. Offaly, Carlow, everybody's in the Offaly boat there. Wexford, Wicklow, everybody's in the Wicklow boat. I think there might have been some slight dispute in that. Onwards then, Derry Armagh, everybody is in the Armagh camp. Monaghan Cavan is an interesting one. Kieran Donny was going for Cavan earlier on. We've all gone for Monaghan. And then we've Waterford Limerick, everybody's in Limerick, and Tip Clare. Everybody's in Clare barring Will, who's gone for Tip, but he's not here to defend himself, so we don't need too long talking about that. Pretty straightforward, Tommy. That's no great disagreements, no great rancor.
Yeah, you'd imagine it's straightforward looking at how similar all our picks are at the weekend. Obviously, Monaghan Cavan is going to be a good battle. It's going to be tough. It's easy to go for Monaghan. The McManus factor. Cavan have been relegated. It's a tough few months for them. They're missing a couple of players. Relegated. But as the Banty said, Cavan absolutely embarrassed Monaghan in the corresponding fixture last year in the Championship. So Monaghan are looking for revenge. So it's probably no surprise that we're all picking Monaghan. I can half understand why Will O'Callaghan has gone for Tipperary, and that's probably the one I'm most worried about at the weekend. I've gone for Clare. I'm an adopted Clare man, as you well know, over the last couple of months. So, I couldn't not back Clare this weekend. But the Quinlivan factor is a massive one for Tipperary. He was meant to be away this year, travelling. Obviously, that was put to a halt. David Power called him back up, and he's joined the team. If Tip get a bit of a run, we know how much quality they have. But Clare were on the brink of Division 1 football this year, and I'm just going for Clare. I think you're probably thinking the same, Owen, are you?
There's going to be at least two surprises this weekend. It's just very hard to know where they're going to come. So I think that's why we've all gone for favourites here, and putting them out in this sort of graphic will make us look very foolish come Monday morning, because there is going to be one of those consensuses that are going to be wrong. And you look at the Leinster Championship, which has come up with a couple of surprising results down through the years, outside of the obvious Dublin ever getting beaten, but outside of any game involving Dublin, we've tended to get weird results in Leinster. We've seen from other sports over the last couple of months that weird results are happening. So you can imagine that it's just going to be hammered home even more this year in Leinster. And take your pick, really, of the Leinster games as to which is the most likely to have a surprise. Like, you could, by reflex, almost say that Wicklow will be the most likely to get beaten. But then again, they have the most recent record of beating their opposition this weekend in beating Wexford last weekend. So that was a big game for Wicklow as well. This wasn't like the Donegal, Tyrone type shadow boxing. This was the game where Wicklow wanted to win because they wanted to get promoted. You didn't have that in Donegal against Tyrone. So that's why I've gone for them. And I've resisted the fact that there might be a surprise. And Offaly Carlow then, could that be the one that has a surprise? And again, I've stuck to the favourites here, but I assume they're favourites, because of the fact that Carlow have been so poor, and Offaly under Mahon have looked really solid and looked like they might be the ones to cause a bit of an upset later in the Leinster Championship. So that one is stuck for me. And then the one that actually might be the one which we're all kind of doing a U-turn on come Monday is Louth against Longford, which a week ago you thought to yourself, there's no hope of Longford getting beaten here. But right at the end of their relegation campaign, Louth landed a sting in getting a win in their final week of the league. And you just wonder, could we all be looking a little bit foolish on that front? I just think in Leinster something can always throw up, but there are cases to be made for all of the favourites there, and we haven't just willy-nilly put out the favourites. I think Leitrim against Mayo, I think that could be a cricket score for Mayo in that game, because it just has to be. They have to hit the ground running. And with regards to the other ones, like you said, you can see why Will has gone for Tip. I think that they are back after a poor year last year. They've got a couple of players back. Quinlivan, obviously, the leader in that pack, are back. And I think it could be one of the best games of the weekend. But I still think Clare should have a little bit too much for them. They've been brilliant all year as well.
Yeah, just quickly on that, like, Longford obviously scuppered the league by refusing to go down to Cork and travel. We didn't get a look at them that week, and down we're already up. So Louth had a brutal league campaign, but they've got some good footballers there, and maybe that's all they needed was one win. So I can kind of see where you come from there. I think Wicklow and Wexford are fairly evenly matched in terms of the odds anyway. But we've got two young managers. We've got Davy Burke and we've got Shane Roach who's been thrown into the deep end. So I'm with you. I'm going for Wicklow on that one as well. Adrian, I don't know if it's worth having any debate about anything else there, but that's really it.
No, let's leave a bit of time. Are we coming back to Donegal Tyrone, or are we going straight into the hurling?
Well, we can talk about it.
You guys are going against Donegal, or you guys are going against Kieran Donaghy as well from his prediction earlier on. Did that sway you at all?
Yeah.
Close. There's a case, isn't there? Like we've gone for. I've gone for myself and Tom. We've gone for Tyrone. Yourself and Will have gone for Donegal, and there's a case for either. And we might all look like idiots on two of us going to look like idiots anyway after Sunday. But I'm going for Tyrone on the basis of a couple of good games under their belt. I'm going for them on the basis that they gave away a load of frees against Donegal, and I think in the game a couple of weeks ago, and I think that it was probably the difference in the end, and it was probably due to a bit of rust that might be out of the system now. Having listened to Kieran, I'm probably slightly less hot on them than I was before I began. But it's mainly a question of whether they can keep a lid. Can they get parity in their own defence? Because I think that obviously up front they have a big job they can do. And as I said earlier on, like 20 to win the All Ireland is definitely worth a couple of quid. 20 to 1.
It could be, Adrian. Owen, I've been charmed by the Conor McKenna factor, and maybe I've been blinded by the Conor McKenna factor. We all know that Tyrone have never won an All Ireland in a knockout championship. They've strolled through it when they've had the back door, and that's always stood to them. I just think that Tyrone have something up their sleeve this weekend. I think we're due a favourite getting knocked out early, and it would just be massive for the championship if Donegal were rattled. I'm a big fan of this Donegal team. I just had an inkling that Tyrone could do something this weekend.
The things that are up their sleeve have all been revealed in the last couple of weeks would be my issue. That Tyrone seems to have shown quite a bit over the last little while. Of course, there's a whole other layer of intensity to get to, but personnel-wise, they've been putting out good teams, unlike Donegal, who were nice and rested after last week. And there's talk about this Tyrone forward line potentially being the best in the country. There won't even be the best forward line on the pitch this weekend. Like, even with McShane back next year, there is still a case to be made that Donegal's forwards are possibly even better than Tyrone's forwards. You might need to push Michael Murphy in there to make that case bulletproof, but I still think elsewhere in the forwards, between the likes of Brennan, Thompson, they've got absolute quality all around the forward line, and I think that if it comes down to that, and it is a more open game than we expect, I think Donegal will win. If it's a more cagey game than we expect, I also think Donegal have the advantage on that front as well. And for me, there was no debate on this.
The openness versus caginess right across the board in every single game for the championship, I think, is going to be a factor as to how these teams go about it, given that it's total jeopardy now in the way that it wasn't before. Like, teams' ability to be pragmatic can no longer be a thing, because it's winner takes all, and we could end up with penalty shootouts and all sorts of great stuff. Anything else to say on the football, Tommy?
No, let's move on, Adrian.
Yeah, hurling. So we've all gone for Limerick to beat Tip. We've all gone for. I don't know if I should say that flippantly. That's probably one of the tougher games. Cork to beat Waterford, Kilkenny to beat Dublin, and the three of you have gone for Wexford to beat Galway, and I'm going for Galway. I'm going for it on the basis that, obviously nothing between these two teams in Leinster last year. Wexford obviously kick on from there, go on to win Leinster, lost out to Tip in the All-Ireland semi-final, which there was no shame in at all. But I suppose the argument that I make is that could have easily been Galway. It was so tight in Leinster. They ultimately got caught by Dublin, and I know that I'm maybe brushing over that in a way that you could lean on a bit heavier, but I think that this format will also suit a county like Galway. Neither county have a huge amount to shout about from a club point of view going into the game. There's an unbelievable case to be made for Wexford as well. Dahi Burke being a doubt is the one concern, obviously, that's making me lean a little bit away from them. But Joe's back, he's injury-free, and there won't be much between them, but I'm leaning for Galway. You lads are all going for Wexford.
Yeah, you could look like a very smart man after the weekend, Adrian. Galway could obviously physically bully this Wexford team, and there's a chance for that. But I really like what David Fitzgerald is doing down there, and yeah, I just think Wexford are a wild card this year in the championship.
I also like the way Wexford have been, a little, like as you say, wild card. That's how they've been painted. It's definitely been painted as a Tipperary, Limerick, Kilkenny championship. And if there's one man to ratchet up a little bit of the siege mentality to not be included in the podium, in the front runners, it'll be Davy Fitzgerald. And I think they came so close last year. And they should have beaten the All-Ireland champions. It's as simple as that. And they didn't. And they've still got a good age profile. They're all back this year. This is going to be a good summer for Wexford if they can edge out a big game like they can this weekend. And this is the sort of game that can be a launch pad for an entire season for Wexford as well. One big win against Galway. That being said, like, it does have the safety net that the football doesn't have in the backdoor system, that perhaps trying to make season-wide predictions after one weekend isn't as wise as it obviously will be in the football. And I think that whoever loses this weekend as well are probably going to be a team that Clare, for example, will not want to get in the back door.
That it?
100%. Yeah, well,
That's
look, we've all gone for Limerick. Limerick were beaten 3 times last year in the Munster Championship. Tip bet them once. Like, Limerick look great, but we just don't know what Tipperary are going to bring this year.
Yeah, that's definitely a 50-50 one, isn't it? It's,
100%.
Coming back into that. Fair play, lads.
Cheers, lads.